The bright lights of Hollywood shimmered with an electric energy as the cameras began to roll for another exciting episode of the Newlywed Game. This was the place where romance met reality, and where four couples were about to find out just how well they knew their partners in the early days of matrimonial bliss. The air was thick with anticipation and the scent of hairspray and nervous excitement. Our journey began with the introduction of the stars of the day. Couple number 1 had exchanged their sacred vows only 3.5 weeks ago, the fresh glow of their wedding still radiating from Rosalind and Kevin Tate. Right beside them stood couple number 2, Christy and Jeff King, who had tied the knot 2.5 months ago and were still navigating the sweet complexities of shared life. Couple number 3, Carlina and Alan Smith, had walked down the aisle 2 months ago, their smiles reflecting a deep and growing bond. Finally, couple number 4, Kelly and Jeff Brown, had traded rings exactly 1 month ago, standing ready to prove their connection. And then, with a flourish and the warm applause of the audience, the star of the show appeared. Bob Eubanks stepped onto the stage with his signature charm. Thank you very much," he greeted the cheering crowd. "Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Newlywed Game. We are so glad you could join us today." He turned his attention to the contestants, his eyes twinkling with mischief. "Couples, are you ready to play this game? Well, if you are, I will tell you what we are going to do. First of all, we are glad to have you here, and I am going to start the show off by asking the husbands some questions. In order to begin the true test, the rules dictated a temporary separation. The ladies were asked to make their way to the soundproof area, leaving their husbands alone in the spotlight. While the ladies were leaving, Bob reminded the husbands of the stakes. "I will be asking you some 5-point questions," he explained. "I want you to answer these questions as you predict your wife will answer the same question if she returns. Now, remember, if her answer matches your prediction, you get 5 points. The one couple with the most points at the end of the show will win a fabulous second honeymoon." The gentlemen settled in, some looking confident and others a bit jittery. Bob leaned forward to deliver the first 5-point question. "Tell me, gentlemen, lately, when it comes to your wife's sex drive, will she say, you wish she would turn it on, turn it down, turn it around, or turn it off?" Jeff Brown was the first to speak, his voice filled with the enthusiasm of a man still in the honeymoon phase. "Easy," he declared. "That is definitely turn it on. Turn it on. Oh, yeah. We have been married 1 month now so far, and everything is still cooking." The audience chuckled as he added with a grin, and, might I add, it is not going to show us." Bob laughed, suggesting they give him another 6 months before checking back. Next was Alan Smith. He nodded in agreement. "Turn it on, turn it on. Why would it turn it on? Turn it on. Alan, we have been busy, but, we have got to make sure we get up to 4 times a week as opposed to just 2 times. Bob raised an eyebrow, noting that it was a little more information than he needed, but he moved on to Jeff King. Jeff King offered a more practical perspective. "Well, Bob, I would have to say turn it on. We have both been working full-time lately, so it has not been what we had expected." Bob nodded understandingly before turning to Kevin Tate. Kevin did not hesitate. "Turn it on. You know what I am saying? Because I constantly always want it, all the time. Turn it on, Bob." Bob remarked that he seemed like a healthy, red-blooded American fellow, to which Kevin proudly agreed. The game continued with the next question, delving into the daily quirks of their relationships. "What would your wife say you think is her favorite thing to whine about these days?" Bob asked. "I want you to whine for us just like she whines at you." Alan took the lead, imitating his wife's voice. "She wants to whine about a job. Alan, I am tired of not working. I need a job. You need a job." Jeff King followed, though his wife's complaint was the opposite. "Well, I would have to say that she whines about the job that she has. She comes home, and there is always something going wrong there. She is always a little bit too busy, or people are not doing their job. She whines about her job." Kevin Tate joined in, noting that his wife also had employment on the mind. "Whine about a job?" Bob asked if it was the one she had or the one she wanted. "Bob, she was whining about the one that she just left," Kevin clarified. Jeff Brown finished the round with a different topic. Well, right now, the current thing is a new car. She is whining about her new car. Wants to get a new car, got to go down there, get a new car. The final question of the first round brought a bit of Hollywood intrigue. Gentlemen, how will your wife say you would complete this sentence? This is you talking. It would not surprise me one bit if I found out that our friend who was living a double life as a stripper. Bob requested just a first name. Jeff King was the first to ponder. Well, I would have to say. Your friend who? Devanna. Devanna was living a double life. She has been hanging out a lot in Hollywood lately, so we are not quite sure what she has been up to. When Bob asked if she had the equipment for the job, Jeff confidently replied, I would say so, sure. Kevin Tate had a different name in mind. Her friend, Laurie. Laurie. Because she look nice. She look like she, you know what I am saying? She could be able to move something towards being a stripper. She fine and, you know what I am saying? Tall and sexy. You know what I am saying? Keep it real, Bob. He confirmed that Laurie often visited their house. Jeff Brown chose a friend named Michelle, explaining his logic. The reason being is because she is probably the furthest from being a person who would do that. It would not surprise me. Alan Smith rounded it out with Nicole. She always kind of wears risk sort of stuff. No. She sort of, like, flashes legs and stuff like that. Bob jokingly advised him not to send her over to Kevin's house. With the predictions recorded, it was time for the wives to return. We will be right back to reunite these newlyweds, Bob announced to the viewers. We are going to see how well their husbands have predicted what their wives will say right after these messages. The ladies returned to their seats, looking curious and ready to play. Bob explained the scoring again, mentioning the cards where the husbands' predictions were stored. Each match would earn them 5 points, leading toward that second honeymoon. The first question for the ladies was the one about their drive. Rosalind Tate answered firmly, turn it on. When Bob revealed that Kevin had said the exact same thing, they earned their first points. Christy King followed suit with turn it on, matching Jeff's prediction perfectly. Carlina Smith also said turn it on, matching Alan. When Bob asked if things had been slow, she clarified they were not real slow, though Alan had mentioned wanting to increase the frequency from 2 to 4 times a week. Kelly Brown, however, provided the first mismatch, saying turn it down, while Jeff had predicted she would say turn it on. Moving to the whining question, the ladies were asked to look at their husbands and perform the whine. Christy looked at Jeff and said, work. This was a perfect match for Jeff's prediction about her job. Carlina looked at Alan and complained, why do you have to wear those holy drawers? This revelation shocked Bob, who couldn't believe Alan wore holy underwear. Alan tried to defend himself, saying they were for casual weekends, but the match was not there, as Alan had predicted she would whine about needing a job. Kelly looked at Jeff and whined, why do you have to drive so slow? Jeff had predicted she would want a new car, which she admitted was also true, but no points were awarded. Rosalind looked at Kevin and whined, I am so fat. My body. Kevin had predicted she would whine about the job she just left. Even though Bob complimented her beauty, the answers did not match. Then came the question about the friend living a double life. Carlina correctly guessed Nicole, matching Alan's prediction perfectly. Kelly guessed a friend named Shane, who was Jeff's best friend, but Jeff had predicted Michelle. Rosalind guessed Laurie, which was a perfect match for Kevin's enthusiastic prediction. Christy guessed a friend named Nick, who had apparently stripped at their wedding, but Jeff had predicted Devanna. The show moved into the second half, where the point values increased to 10 points. The husbands were now backstage, and the wives had to predict their answers. The first question was about the morning routine. Sock, sock, shoe, shoe, or sock, shoe, sock, shoe? All 4 ladies, Carlina, Christy, Rosalind, and Kelly unanimously agreed that their husbands were sock, sock, shoe, shoe men. The next 10-point question was about a disaster involving going all the way. Rosalind hesitated, wondering if Bob meant the location or the act itself. After some clarification, she revealed it was a disaster at her mother's house in her niece's bedroom. Kelly shared a story about the beach in Tahiti where people walked up on them. Carlina mentioned her roommate's couch, and Christy mentioned the beach by the Sonofri power plant. The final question for the wives was a 25-point bonus about the kitchen inventory. Kelly guessed jars, Carlina guessed boxes, Christy guessed cans, and Rosalind also guessed cans. The tension mounted as the husbands returned for the final segment. Bob welcomed them back, and they jumped straight into the points. For the dressing routine, all four husbands, Jeff King, Alan, Jeff Brown, and Kevin, confirmed they were indeed sock, shoe guys, giving every couple 10 points. Then came the disaster question. Jeff Brown correctly identified the beach, matching Kelly's answer. Kevin Tate, with much storytelling, confirmed it was at his mother-in-law's house while she was in another room, matching Rosalind. Jeff King matched Christie's specific answer about the beach near the nuclear power plant. Alan Smith also matched Carlina's answer about the roommate's sofa. Finally, it all came down to the kitchen inventory for 25 points. Jeff Brown guessed cans, but Kelly had said jars. Kevin Tate guessed cans, and since Rosalind had also said cans, they surged into the lead. Jeff King guessed boxes, but Christie had said cans. Alan Smith guessed cans, but Carlina had said boxes. With the final tallies calculated, Bob Eubanks made the announcement. That means that couple number 1, Kevin and Rosalind, you are our Newlywed Game grand prize winners. The couple celebrated their victory and their upcoming Caribbean cruise. Congratulations to the Tates, Bob concluded. Thanks to all of our couples, and most of all, thanks to you. I am Bob Eubanks. See you next time on the Newlywed Game. Bye-bye.